Hello, I'm Peter Reekers. I'm an internationally recognised specialist in crisis, risk, emergency and disaster communications. That's public communications. I'm going to take a few minutes of your time to talk about how to write good short messages. This is just the quick version of it. You need to go into a bit more detail. This work is based on some fantastic research that's been done by Jeanette Sutton and Erica Kulgowski. Their work is probably world leading, I think, in this regard, in terms of how messages work and what are the best messages and how do you get them most effective. Probably the biggest complaint we hear from agencies is they're wondering why people won't act when they send out a warning message. And quite simply, the truth is that the messages are probably crafted incorrectly. So let's just go through some of the structure of it, and we'll talk about some of the things that will make it work. First of all, let's talk about the platforms. Many agencies are using things like Twitter, Facebook, things like that. I'm a big fan of YouGoRound. YouGoRound is a great platform for this sort of work. It's specialised, designed for this purpose. Twitter wasn't built for this purpose, and so YouGoRound does it really well. So let's just talk about some of the messaging. To get people to take action, well-constructed messages include clear, specific, protective action statements to stop people stalling or looking somewhere else for information. We know that people will generally go looking for information to confirm things. They'll see it on Facebook, then they'll check the news and they'll listen to the radio, they'll talk to a neighbour. But there are ways to get them to take action immediately if we have the message structured correctly. The structure of the message should include these things: the threat, its likelihood and the severity of its impacts, the populations or geographical areas at risk, and that's where YouGoRound does it really well because it can be in those zones, the time to take action, really important to give a time frame to say that you need to move in the next hour, 2 hours, day, whatever it is. Recommended protective actions. What action do you want your audience to take? Do you want them to evacuate? Do you want them to shelter in place? Make it very clear exactly what you want them to do. And finally, the source of the message. It's really important that it comes from a recognised and valid source. Let's drill down into some of that a little bit more. To get the audience's attention, warnings need to be designed to grab attention to the message receiver. So using things like uppercase, colours, pictures, things like that are all really valuable to get the audience's attention. To help with comprehension, understanding and readability, warnings should be easily understandable, avoid abbreviations and acronyms, clearly identify the threat and provide the specific location of impact. So language choice is really important. The simpler the language, the better. Generally, we want to write a message targeted at something like an 8-year-old's level. So if you're using big words that people won't understand, they won't be as effectively. To get the message to be trusted, it's important that it comes from a known source, a trusted source. Warnings should be used sparingly and accurately reflect the seriousness and the time of the event. So building up your credibility with the audience beforehand is really important. And once they know who you are and they trust you, then those messages will be much more effective. To emphasise the personalisation of the risk, warnings should contain unambiguous action words and phrases that indicate the seriousness of the event and the need to take protective action. Put it simply, the audience really needs it to be talking to them, not to the community, not to the wider audience. You've got to be almost targeting the individual. So personalise the message as much as possible. You need to do this. Talk as though you're talking directly to them. Simple language, direct language, and very clear things that you want them to do. That's all from me. I'd love to speak to you more. There's plenty more on this subject to drill into. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want more information on this. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks very much.